Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today I've driven up here to Naples, Florida, at the Wawa, where I just filmed here a couple of weeks ago. And this is supposed to be a brand new Tesla supercharging site that's going in. The plans have been drawn up, the permits have been filed, but boy, oh boy, you know, with this latest news announcement, it comes into question, what's going to happen? Is this station really, it's right on the corner of 951 and 41. From a selfish standpoint, I really want this station to go in, this Tesla supercharger, because if I don't have this station and down on Marco Island, I don't have any level 2 charging at my condo. I got to pay Marriott $25. There's no DC fast charging. I got to go all the way up to Fifth Avenue, basically, in Naples in order to charge. But I wanted to wait to opine on my thoughts about what Tesla just recently did. You know, sometimes the way with which people do things is not as good. You know, if you want to tell a friend that you have a serious problem with them, maybe you don't do it in the right way. If you want to leave your job, maybe you don't really know how to do it and you don't handle it right. And I think that this topic today that I want to discuss is it falls into the category of Elon's got a bigger plan. I think cooler heads will prevail. I think there's opportunity for so many people, even those that sadly lost their jobs. My heart goes out to you, but good news is this EV trend of more cars like this Model Y or other vehicles that are supporting or going to support the NAC standard. I know there's been talk about maybe they will, maybe they won't, but you know what? Cooler heads prevail. I want to discuss in this video my thoughts about what's really going on here. So let's get into it, folks. Yeah, so here we are at the Wawa in Naples, and you know, my understanding is that right over here there is a plan to put in Tesla V3s. Now, I'm going to go into the Wawa like I did the last time I was here and ask them if they have gotten any emails, updates about whether or not this Tesla supercharging station is going to go in. It's supposed to go in right over here. The plans have been drawn up, the permits have been filed, and I thought they were going to be breaking ground real soon, but I don't know. Doesn't look like they have broken any ground here. So, but let me go in and check and see if there's any intel in the Wawa. And if they don't have intel, I'm gonna get a cup of coffee. All right, so as you can see, I've got a cup of coffee here, which means I didn't get any intel. Although I did speak to one of the assistant general managers there that said that, oh yeah, we're getting Tesla superchargers here. It's in the plans, just don't know the timing of when. So, at least according to her, there was nothing's changed. So, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, look, you know, but so anyway, I wasn't done. I went and asked another person. I said, have you heard anything about getting Tesla superchargers here? And she said, what's a Tesla supercharger? So I guess I didn't really come up, but there was another guy who was getting cash out of a cash machine. And every time he hit a button, he said, back in the old neighborhood. And then he hit another button. He goes, back in the old neighborhood. And I'm thinking to myself, is that a message? Is that intel? And then I decided, no, I better get the extra large coffee. So that's what I did. So anyway, let's talk about my thoughts about what's going on here. And not just here at the Wawa, but in general with Tesla. Let me jump in the Model Y and talk a little bit here. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about what's happening here. Obviously, the way with which this went down earlier this week, there's no way that could have been planned. I think their emotions either got the best of Elon, or I'm not really sure what happened, maybe a blowout, but you know, clearly this was not a planned move by a typical corporation that you know, has built arguably the best asset that Tesla has, the supercharger network, and then just to kind of just like say with an email firing the top dog and all of her you know, her reports, 500 people, is just shocking. And I really kind of wanted to wait to make this video or opine in on share my thoughts on what was going on here. I've listened to Kyle, I've listened to Tom Malogny, I've listened to other people. A lot of people have been coming up to me, Dave, what's going on? Is Tesla dead? So here's the thing. When Kathy and I were driving down to Florida a couple weeks ago in this exact Model Y, we listened to a book on tape about Elon's life, and it was really interesting to me to hear the struggles that he's had and the challenges that he's overcome and the true mission that he's on. And I don't know if you guys will agree with this or not, but hear me out for a second. I think there is a much bigger calling that's going on in Elon's mind right now. And to a large extent, I believe that charging electric vehicles, while it's important, I believe he's already done it. When I say done it, he's already built the most amazing network, not just him, but the entire team. They've built this incredible network that if for argument's sake, you want to drive most everywhere in this country today in a Tesla, you can. With the exception of, going out into the wilderness or off the beaten path. But I don't even think twice about charging my cars. I've got an X and Kathy drives a Y. I mean, the network is just everywhere. And it's super reliable, as you all know. So, my understanding is that, and if you read his after tweet, it's not like they're going to stop building all expansion. So I hope, from a selfish standpoint, like I mentioned before, I hope they continue with this particular location. I think it's badly needed. But I mean, I'll survive and the industry will survive if this particular station doesn't go in. But, when you think about what's happening today with AI, when you think about what's happening today with robotics, when you think about real challenges that countries have for, just getting electricity in a stable, consistent manner, and you think about the megawatts that Australia just recently signed for to, purchase their solutions for battery storage at Tesla, even that is somewhat of a smaller sort of objective of the firm. This firm, I think, is starting to change its whole philosophy around cars and around the way to power those cars. And I think it's been brewing around in his head. This is speculation on my part. I apologize for speculating, but this guy's onto a much higher calling. And I think he's already set, by example, not just a blueprint for success, but there's already infrastructure in the ground today that people can charge not only their Teslas, but they can also charge their Rivians and Fords today. And I know that there's been it's crazy that people that are in corporations and energy companies that are in the middle of these projects are going through this sort of rough transition process right now. One thing we've learned over the years, that I've learned, is that the only constant in life is change. And clearly, the way with which this change happened, I don't think was planned. But I think the direction is actually good for the industry. And let me tell you why. One company to provide all of the charging solutions for electric vehicles, that being Tesla. Think about AT&T. Play it out. Tesla becomes the only, the whole, not just NACS. NACS is a connector, but Tesla becomes the single largest source of energy dispensing for electric vehicles in the country. What's the government going to do? They're going to let them have all of that power, pricing power? I mean, if they're able to buy electricity at 12 cents a kilowatt hour from the grid, and they can charge 48, who's to say if they have a monopoly on all of the charging dispensing that they could charge 60? I don't think they would. I mean, but You never know. So the fact that Elon, with this very sort of unstructured and unannounced and crazy announcement, just said, that's it, I'm done, we're not going to expand anymore, or for the most part, we're not going to expand. It's time for the industry now to step up, and they got to smell, there's blood in the water in a good way. There's opportunity out there. There's consortiums that are being formed. I think it was BMW, a bunch of firms, Mercedes perhaps, this Iona, I forget what it's called, Electrify America, whether or not they step up or not. I think there's opportunity now with NEVI funding for additional firms to be able to deliver and finish out sort of the goal. Like, I think about Elon. He's like, okay, electric vehicle charging. All right, been there, done that. You know what? Time to turn it over to the industry. I've given away this whole protocol for NACS. Everyone's on board with that. You know what? Guess what? It's time for the entire industry to take ownership of that. And that problem is now going to be solved. It's not necessarily going to be solved today. I know that if I stayed in the game, it'd probably be solved a lot smoother. There'd probably be a lot less apprehension. But you know what? I think long-term, his strategic vision was, it's better that a decentralized solution of providers of energy dispensing for electric vehicles is the better way to go, because that will take care. It won't end up going down the path of having some sort of, AT&T BOC breakups, creating Verizon and Bell Atlantic and all of the BOC companies. This guy thinks, like, he plays 5-dimensional chess, this guy. And I think in his mind, this trade was already done and he won the game. Now, the way with which he exited this, I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me. But strategically, I think it kind of does. And so I want to provide an optimistic view to all of those people out there that are worried. Take a deep breath. This is going to work itself out. There are major speed bumps. Perhaps some of them have some spikes in them too, so watch your tires. But, there's one thing about Tesla that's pretty amazing, is that they do things that just shock the world. I remember the day that they announced the Cybertruck, and Kyle was at the event, and he's like, Dad, and I was watching it live, and I was like, okay, that's a joke, right? That's a paper mache project from the local junior high school. Now they're going to bring out the real Cybertruck. No, that was it, right? And that is one of those things that just was like, that is so far outside of anything that anyone expected, or at least I think a lot of people were like, what the hell is that thing, right? What is that? And so that was a very planned thing. But, this whole thing about, this is by far the biggest shock to a lot of people. And I think the initial knee-jerk reaction, this is bad for the industry. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Is this the end of EVs and all of that? What I would say is, Elon, he's on to AI, he's on to robotics, he's on to, saving the planet, whatever his grand magnanimous ideas are. This electric vehicle charging trade is now time for someone to take over. The way with which it's happening is not necessarily the right way for that to happen. But I'd love to hear the story. And I think we will. We'll hear it from employees. We'll hear it. It'll come out as to what really went down here. Now, having said that, it wouldn't surprise me if Elon comes back the next day and says, all right, you know what? I made a mistake. We're actually in the game. That was a joke. April Fool's not on April 1st, right? And, the problem with that is, if he does that, how can anyone trust what they're saying in the future? I mean, when you're dealing with someone, you've got to be able to trust from a business standpoint who you're dealing with. And contracts are contracts, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of interesting conversations over the next month or two about, we as a manufacturer chose to support NACS. Now, does that make sense? We as a local utility decided to put in the Tesla Supercharger here at the Wawa in Naples. Well, I can't even find people to call. Who do I call? I don't know, right? So like that part of the business side of what Elon has done here is a risk. And I think it's a real risk for anyone who's doing business with Tesla. I don't think this guy cares. I really don't. So I think you, as whether you're an individual or a corporation, you got to know that that's a factor. And it's only been sort of supported by this behavior that just came out by them, by the way with which he executed on this grandiose plan of, we're not going to massively expand anymore. But again, I will come back to, this has to have been in the back of his mind that what he's done with the Supercharger network, it's unbelievable how good it is, how robust it is, how reliable it is. It just works every single time. Hats off to every Tesla employee and all the contractors and all the designers that built this network. It's not going away, folks. It's still here. It's still going to be supported and serviced. So don't freak out. Cooler heads prevail. It will be very interesting to see how this all plays out as far as other firms, other charge point operators, other consortiums taking advantage of the opportunity to now draw from the Tesla talent pool that's out there and learn from the best, learn from experience and harness that. And that is going to multiplex into this industry through a decentralized mechanism that I think is going to be overall better for this entire effort to electrify, electronification of all of these vehicles, right, going from gas to electric. So I think that it's actually a good thing. Maybe a little bit controversial on my side, but I've taken time. I was kind of speechless when I first heard about it. But I've taken my time to think about what's happened here. Hopefully, selfishly, don't stop the Wawa project here in Naples, please. But if you do, I actually understand it. And it's not like I was looking to sell my Tesla, whether it's our Model Y or Model X, with the existing infrastructure on the hope that someday Tesla would build out their network so that I did sell a Lucid. I did sell an Ioniq 5. For that exact reason, because I didn't have the confidence I could charge it when I'm on road trips. I have the confidence I can charge my Tesla on any road trip. If you're thinking about as a consumer, maybe you're buying a GM product, maybe you're buying a Porsche, any of the manufacturers of the vehicles that have come out and announced NACS support, maybe this is going to delay that, right? It sounds like it already has. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it does. And if that affects your buying decision over the next 6 months to a year, okay, you know what? So be it. You're going to have to rely on the CCS network perhaps longer than you wanted to, because Tesla NACS is not going to be there as quickly as perhaps you thought. But again, this guy, Elon, he's playing a different game. He's got a more grand scheme. And the way with which he did it, not good. I think it introduces a lot of doubt into a lot of people's minds about Tesla as a company, whether you're buying as a consumer a product of theirs, or if you're perhaps a partner of theirs or a vendor of theirs. You got to know that. That's who you're dealing with here, folks. But the bigger plan is what I'm excited about. So stay positive. For all you Tesla folks, thank you so much for what you did in building out this network. If there's any way you can get the Wawa, here in Naples up and running, please do it. I, for one, would appreciate that. Just kidding. And whatever happens. But stay positive. Dust off your resume. There's a lot we are just starting on this, folks. We're just getting going. This is a speed bump in the path to the future. Again, avoid those spikes and those speed bumps, but stay positive, folks, whoever you are, and let's see how this all unfolds. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully you stuck with me, and I'd love to hear your comments or opinions. Definitely a strange way to go about doing business, that's for sure, Tesla. But it is what it is. Anyway, thanks again for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave. I'll catch you on the next one, and you take care. Bye-bye.